Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the daily update. Hope you guys had a good day trading today. Market is flat on the S&P. However, we did see positive performance on the Russell 2000 and the banks. And also, I think we did see energy sector doing pretty well today. But pretty much flat on the S&P. Let's see, what had happened today and what we can expect going into tomorrow. So we've been tracking this. There's a few things we've been tracking this week, which was a rising pivot and the short-term moving average. So I've kind of adjusted this rising pivot a little bit ever since we did see that decline earlier today, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is where we opened. That's the first hour. And that's the second hour. So pretty much we're hanging on above that rising pivot, above the short-term moving average. And then on the third hour, it looks like we did lose briefly the rising pivot and the short-term moving average. And it came back down to retest the gap area, right? And we talked about how if we do see the move to the downside, and this is probably going to be act as support because that's a gap area, right? This is why gaps are good, and you want to track gaps because in the short term of things, a lot of times we'll come down and retest it, and you will see some dip bars coming in. And this time we did see that micro term dip getting bought, and so we saw the long lower wick. And in that process, you can see on that hour, and this is the third hour, it is no coincidence, buyers brought it up above my short-term moving average there. I'll zoom out. You can see it's just, they're making it pretty obvious that they want to make sure we close above the short-term moving average. Basically, the bulls they want to keep this grinding sideways going because they understand once we lose the short-term moving average, the sentiment can shift. The sentiment can shift. Something like here. You see that how the short-term moving average was lost. Come back here. Short-term moving. You see that how when the short-term moving average is above it and the price is below it, even though there was that attempt to make a move to the upside, it kind of gets heavier as that short-term moving average is acting as a resistance. So it's kind of important. You see how we lost, and this was back in like mid-December, how we lost the short-term moving average. And for days, it was staying below it, and we saw that big gap down. And it's always kind of a good thing when you stay above the short-term moving average, because then bulls can kind of use that, even though market is grinding, moving sideways, consolidating, kind of bulls can kind of keep at it and hang on until they can find momentum to push it back up. Obviously, we're saying we have a higher probability of that happening. So today it seemed like we could see buyers are making sure bringing the price get above it, because if we would have closed below it, well, then we could say that, and let's say we closed here. We closed near the 376. Well, that short-term moving average is going to start to look like this. But because of that micro-term dip buying activities that we saw on the fourth hour, and you can see, and it closed above on that fourth hour, we saw that, or third hour, closed above that short-term moving average. And then on the fourth hour, we saw that lower wick here, bears trying to push it down one more time, wasn't able to do so, and then we saw the green candle, and then that's a fifth hour, and then a sixth hour, and we do see these long upper wicks here last 2 hours. So it looks like right now what is going on is that the rising pivot is, it was resistance, and then it was acting as support for a couple of days, and right now it's trying to figure out, is this going to be another resistance now? But the short-term moving average is supporting this move for the buyers, and that's why we were staying up. This is how we were able to close above, or close at least flat reading versus red, because the short-term moving average was propping it up, and short-term moving average is still, beneath the price action, right? Because you don't want to see price closing below the short-term moving average. And nonetheless, you can see that my short-term moving average is moving sideways, telling us that we're currently trendless. And we're trying to figure out, is this going to make a move? And then you will see that short-term moving average making a move back up. And is this going to look something like scooping action where we see the price get extended to the upside like this? And then it comes down to retest that moving average a couple times and then let the oscillator reset before going higher. Or are we going to see that pivot at work, get below it, and bears start attacking this gap, maybe even trying to fill that? It's tough to say at this point, but I can tell you what needs to happen for bulls and bears. Well, we've been talking about this week. I think as soon as that gap was open, the longer this gap remains open, this is a down gap, by the way, right? This is a down gap. This is where it closed, and we saw a gap down, and the gap was not fully filled. And we talked about on Monday that if the longer this gap remains open, that the more hectic it's going to be for the buyers this week. And you can see it's hectic. And it's not ugly, right? It's not ugly. It's not like it's not bloody day or nothing like that. But it's been hectic. Like it's just been grinding. We haven't seen any kind of momentum like we've seen here in some of these moves. It's just been sideways to lower. We even saw at one point, market coming down, I think printing like 0.5% down there or something like that. And because this gap has not been filled yet. So what the buyers needs to get up here and fill this gap as quickly as possible. The longer this gap remains open, the higher chance you're going to give the bears come down and challenges this gap, even trying to fill it. So what the buyers need to do, obviously needs to get above this rising pivot. Buyers do have short-term moving average is supporting for now. And we need to continue in that, stay above the 377.85. Get up, fill this gap as quickly as possible, come back down, and then make new highs. For bears, obviously, if you want to utilize this as resistance, need to get back below 377, come back down and retest 376 again. And this time, if you can stay at 376-ish area, then as the price get down, you will see the short-term moving average supporting the bears. And then at the time, a lot of that is going to kind of feel heavier because of this kind of consolidation we had, right? And so then bears can maybe bring it down to fill the gap at 374, right? So tomorrow will be kind of important. See how this market is going to behave in this vicinity. Let's check out that oscillator. We'll make it a better picture here. So we do see, just because the market kind of floated a little bit higher last several hours of today's trading session, so that we can see that there's a little bit of an attempt to crossing up. We haven't seen any cross up though. So we don't have any kind of confirmation, anything like that. We're just kind of seeing a little bit of a slowdown here on the oscillator. That does not mean the oscillators cannot come right back down. We've seen it before. And so buyers need to see this thing crossing up, right? And again, just because it crosses up doesn't always mean when it crosses up it's gonna be like 100% guarantee we get back up. But at least that's the first step, first phase you want to see. The buyers want to see that cross and then filling that gap, right? That's what, and if you want to see new all-time highs again. Bears, if they can bring it down, re-challenge this gap area, I think this will come back down. Only challenge is right now, bears have not been materializing from this downfall. See, oscillator is getting resetted, but price been moving sideways. So we are actually correcting through time rather than through price. Because, you would want to see, as the oscillator is coming down, you would want to see price coming down also with it. But instead, bulls are trying to hang on so they can rest, right? Because we did see a good move here since early January. So they're resting. They're just waiting until their energy can come back. And the bull's energy will come back once we see this thing coming back down here and get to that oversold level. So bears need to act quickly. If not, bulls will come back and bring it back up. So this will be important level here at 377 and 376. I'll come back for you. Enjoy your evening and good luck trading tomorrow.